In today's episode, I had the honor and privilege of talking to psychologist, lead instructor for the Institute for Professional Excellence in Coaching, aka iPEC, life coach, public speaker, and business owner, Dr. Lisa Kaplin. In this episode, we discussed what led her to going from full-time therapist to full-time coach, how coaching has affected her ability to impact people's lives in comparison to therapy. The top three questions people interested in becoming a coach ask: how she generates multiple income streams for herself, and how she's been able to maintain that steady income stream for over 10 years now. Why so many new coaches quit. How she made it less scary for herself when first starting off. Where the best places to meet new clients are. The biggest challenges and tips to overcome when starting and or maintaining a life coaching career that constantly generate income. Her process to keep a balanced marketing and coaching system, ideas for coaches just starting out to grow their brand awareness, and lastly, advice for millennials who are miserable in their jobs, but the thought of looking elsewhere scares the living hell out of them. As always, any articles, books, or websites referenced in the episode can be found in the show notes. Now, on with the show. For people that don't know your background, can you briefly just elaborate a little more on what you were doing before you became a life coach?
I'm a psychologist, and I was seeing clients not a ton though, and I was doing corporate training around communication, leadership, those types of things. I did more therapy like 10 years before I got my coaching, and then slowly was doing less and less by the time I went through iPEC and got my life coaching certification. So seeing clients.
Gotcha. So you were doing 10 years of therapy pre-iPEC or pre-life coaching?
Yeah, even probably a little bit more if I think about it. Yeah, 10 to 15 years. Yes, pre-life coaching.
Gotcha. Yeah. And then I know you went to school to be a psychologist. You went to you graduated from, I think it was Boise, and was it Illinois as well to get your master's?
I got my master's at Illinois Benedictine, which is a suburb of Chicago. And then I got my PsyD, my doctorate, at the Illinois School of Professional Psychology, also in Chicago. So Chicago.
Got you. So you pretty much knew as soon as you graduated, with your BA, that is, you were like, well, it looks like this is the route I'm going to take. And then you just followed through until you became a doctor.
Well, actually, no. So in college, I was a business major. I was a finance major with an econ minor, and I couldn't stand it. I worked at a bank, which was really like just sucked the life out of me. And I knew that wasn't the route I wanted to take. So I worked for a little while in real estate banking, and then went back to school a little while after that. And that's when I got my master's and my doctorate. I knew I wasn't in the right place. So I made the big shift then.
How long did it take for you to realize when you were working in real estate banking that this wasn't for you?
Fairly quickly, I realized it because it was so boring. I know some people like banking, God love you, but it took me a while to figure it out what I wanted to do. I did a little, self-evaluation. I did some work at that time. So it took a few years, and then before I applied for my master's. And then I knew then I was on the path that I wanted to be on.
And so I got to ask, why the switch from therapy to life coaching?
Well, I wasn't actually planning on switching. I was planning on adding coaching to my therapy practice. So I hadn't really seen a lot of clients. I raised 3 kids during that time. I had all 3 of my kids, and I just was very focused on family. So I wasn't seeing a lot of clients, and I was feeling very disconnected from therapy. And a friend of mine who'd gone through iPEC said, why don't you go through iPEC? It'll kind of get you back into the groove. Even though it's not clinical, it's still helping people. It's a similar modality. And that's what my plan was. And then just bring coaching into my therapy practice. But I fell in love with coaching. And then I was like, you know what? Don't want to do therapy anymore. And I haven't seen a therapy client in like 12 years now.
So it went from you just wanting to do something while you were raising your 3 kids, being disconnected from therapy. I don't think you mentioned like how many years you took off from therapy.
Well, I never officially took years off of therapy. I just did very little of it. So I got my doctorate in, I don't know, 1999. Is that right? Or right around then. And at first I was seeing a lot of clients, but I had three young kids and it was just not working. So then I was seeing less and less clients, individual clients, and I was doing more and more of the corporate training thing until 2011 when that's when I found iPEC. And that's when I started to do my coach training. So by that time, I really wasn't feeling fully engaged clinically because I hadn't seen that many therapy clients, but I still knew I wanted to help people in some way. I still knew that general path was mine.
Hmm.
Just it looked different than I realized.
Okay, well, I'm tempted to ask you two questions at the same time, but I'll ask you one at a time. All right. Compared to therapy, how would you say that coaching has affected your ability to actually impact people's lives in the way that you had hoped you would?
In some ways more, and I'm a firm believer in therapy and I don't want to diminish it in any way. And I realized that I liked coaching more than I did therapy because you can reach more people. Um, for a variety of reasons. There's like a stigma sometimes around therapy, not that I think there should be, but there is. So people will reach out for coaching, and a lot of people don't actually need therapy. Coaching is sufficient, so you can have this broader reach. Therapy also, you get licensed in a state, so you're limited to work in that state versus in the United States anyway, versus coaching, you can work anywhere in the world. There are much less rules around licensing and that type of thing. In fact, we don't have licensing, we have certification. So it's definitely different. And I think just I like the focus of coaching in an outcome, whereas therapy, not necessarily, depending on what type of therapy you do, but coaching is very focused in forwarding action.
Yeah, very outcome oriented,
Yeah.
right? And
Yeah.
future oriented also, right?
Yes. Future and growth oriented. Yeah.
Mm. And so,
Yeah.
how many years have you been doing this? Is the second question, by the way. So, how many years have you been coaching full time?
It's 2011. So I finished my coach training that fall and I opened my coaching doors and have been coaching essentially full time ever since.
Nice. Okay.
Full-time coaching, and I probably should, there's a bit of a, I don't see 40 clients a week. I see like 12 clients a week, and I do other things like I teach at iPEC and I do group things, and there's a lot of other things. They're all coaching related, but I'm not just seeing individual coaching clients 40 hours a week.
Yeah. Thank you for clarifying. That's good. And
Yeah.
yeah, I'm sure you probably know better than I do, but coaching full time probably looks different for some, probably most coaches than others, where there's some that see 15 clients a week, and that's definitely full time, or
Yeah.
maybe some that do 10 and increase their rates or find a way to make it work, right.
Right. There's so many different, I think that's another reason I loved coaching is there's just a lot of flexibility on how you can use it. So yeah.
So, as you and I both know, anyone can call themselves a life coach without the ICF credentials, without the iPEC credentials, without any credentials at all. So that being said, the top question that I get asked, and I'm sure you have probably been asked this way more times than I have, is do life coaches get paid well?
That's a great question. If coaches charge well, they do get paid well. I think I just read an ICF article that says the average coach makes about $40,000 a year, 40 to 50 or something like that, which is okay, but really not fantastic depending on where you live, obviously. And you can absolutely make a really good living as a coach, as valuing and understanding the product that you deliver, the return on investment for people, how powerful coaching is. You can make a great living for sure.
It's good. I'll put the link to the article that you just talked about in the show notes so that people can have access to it as well.
Okay.
How long did it take for life coaching to become your primary source of income upon which you can live and raise three kids?
And by the way, put three kids through college is what I ended up doing, which is pretty intense. Probably within I mean, I started making money right away, but not like really solid livable money for about 18 months or so, 18 months to 2 years. And most coaches will tell you they have a variety of income streams. So, yes, I'm getting income from one on one coaching clients, but I also get income from the teaching that I do and other contract work that I do. So, most of us have a variety of income streams.
Your niche, you had declared a niche early on in your career, and it was to help women who were thinking about getting divorced.
Right.
And then you evolved as a coach. Now you're a generalist, correct?
Yes, mostly I work with leaders and executives, but yes, I mean, ultimately, any coach can be, if they want to be, a generalist because although someone might hire me because they're an executive and they want to work on their leadership skills, there's always other things they want to talk about as well. Life related issues, wellness, all the transition, all the things. So once you learn how to coach and learn how to coach well, you can coach on really any topic. The niche is more about how do people find you, right?
Hmm. How did you find your niche?
The first one was just it seemed like that was was happening to a lot of women around me. I think I was 40-ish. And a lot of women I knew were unhappily married and thinking about getting divorced and really wanted to talk through it. And so it just at the time too, I was seeing clients more in person than virtual. So I was more locally focused at first. So it just kind of fit my location, my area, my age group. So that's where I started. And it just really evolved fairly quickly into all kinds of things. Still some people who call me talking about divorce, but there's so many other topics as well that come up.
Hmm. How do people find you now?
Mostly referrals. I don't even know how many people even look at my website, though it could use a little work. Mostly referrals that I work with somebody and they give my name to somebody else, and then that person calls me and says, I heard about you from so and so, or I'm in front of, because I teach for iPEC and I do a lot of corporate training. I'm in front of a lot of audiences throughout the years, thousands of people throughout the year. So that's people reach out to me from that as well. And probably a very small percentage look at my website. But if someone's Googling life coach, they're going to get 1,000 hits, right? It's not going to be the way they're going to find somebody.
That's good. Okay. Thank you. And another question, this is going back to the questions around what I believe people, when they first think of becoming a life coach, this is the very top three questions they ask. So one, you already answered, do life coaches get paid well? And then how long does it take them to develop a steady stream of income? And now, how long have you been able to make life coaching your primary source of income?
I mean, over 10 years, really. And again, it's a combination of different income streams, but all related to coaching. And not pretty fully consistently for over 10 years.
That's amazing. 10 years of being a life coach, where I feel like you probably know better than I do, where it's the majority of people that end up doing it full time probably drop out because they don't want to. Well, maybe they just have a lot of other priorities that are maybe like children, family. They just have a million and one excuses why they should probably just go get a 9 to 5 and
Right.
work something out, anything else.
Well, I think what happens for people is they get nervous about marketing and messaging and selling themselves and selling coaching. And so it feels overwhelming and scary. And I get that building a business is a little overwhelming and scary at the beginning. And so they quit too early before they really get off the ground. And once you get off the ground, it moves pretty easily. It's those first year to 2 years that can be rough. You have to get out there, you have to talk to people.
And so, what made it less scary for you when you were starting off?
Once I figured out what coaching was and I really got it, there was nothing that was going to stop me. I was like, this is what I was meant to do. I know this. I just felt it in my bones. And I just kept on going. I got turned down numerous times. A lot of people said no to me at the beginning. I still get no's, by the way. And I was like, okay, that's all right. I'm not the fit for them. Keep going. And I just kept going, didn't stop, haven't stopped.
That's
But you
great.
gotta, right, you gotta put yourself out there. You gotta get out there and talk to people and be out in the world. When new coaches say, "Well, I have my website up," well, that's never going to be enough. You gotta go talk to people, right?
Where's the best places to talk to people at?
Where isn't the best places? I mean, seriously, anywhere you go, networking is a great thing to do. Where do your ideal clients go? Where might you find them? And be in those places where you're either giving a talk or you're offering some services to them, or you're just telling them what you do. One of my earliest clients, I met her at a Madonna concert and we started chatting and I told her what I did and she's like, "Oh my God, I need you. Can I have your card?" And she called me a couple days later and hired me, in just a phenomenal relationship. So anywhere.
It's good. Always carry business cards with you.
Always carry your business cards. Yes. Or at least have a digital one that you can share digitally.
Okay. That's
Yeah.
good tip. These are, I'd say, the final three questions. Any other questions besides three? These are just mere curiosity. What are the biggest challenges and tips to overcome in maintaining a life coaching career that constantly generates a primary source of income?
The biggest kind of pitfalls are, what happens at the beginning is you're marketing yourself, and then you get some clients, and then you get focused on the clients, and now you're not marketing yourself. So it's really getting a system where you're essentially putting yourself out there in some way, even if it's via social media, something, a blog, a podcast, whatever it is, that you're getting yourself out there consistently and seeing clients at the same time. So it is, the thing that gets in people's way is they give up, right? Like, "Oh, I had a few clients and now I don't have any and no one's going to call me," and they give up. So it's really finding a way to get into a system where you're really presenting yourself to the world all the time and you're talking to people. Back to that again.
And so what is your system of, because it sounds like, and I think I'm taking this from a page out of your book. On one hand, you're saying that there's a skill of marketing yourself, and then on the other, there's the actual coaching part. And so
Yeah.
there's a balancing act, and
Yeah.
you can't really just completely drop one. And if you do, you can't do it for too long. Otherwise,
Right.
no one's going to know about you.
Right.
What's your process to keep it balanced?
So my process really is, I write a weekly blog and I actually have an assistant who makes it look pretty, and then she blasts it out to my social media every week. So there's an email that goes out on LinkedIn, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and blasts out there. So there's something every week from me. And then the other is, obviously, I give talks. I teach other people how to be coaches. So I'm out in the world that way. When I first became a coach, I did a monthly webinar. I did it on parenting because I was talking to a lot of parents at the time. And honest to God, Angel, I'd say the first 6 of them, no one showed up, no one. And I did it anyway. I did it anyway. And I pretended that people were asking me questions. So I had some questions written down. I was like, "Oh, we have a question from Angel." And I would, but, and then I would put it out there. I'd put it on social media, and people would say, "I listened to your webinar and I got something from it." So, it was just showing people the value that I could give them through my knowledge and my experience, and continually finding a way to get that message out to the world.
That is one hell of an idea. Man, that takes a lot of courage to do it more than freaking 5 times, and you help people with it. So
And honestly, even after that, it's not like there were a lot of people. I mean, I think I had like 10 and under for most of them after that. So it wasn't like huge numbers. But the other thing is just even offering a free coaching session to people. So because people don't really, not a lot of people know what it is. More and more people are figuring out. But you could do a coaching session with someone and they could see, like, wow, that is really super helpful. I want that.
it's a good idea too. Yeah.
Yeah.
So the public speaking came when exactly?
Well, actually, when I was getting my doctorate, I was pregnant with my third baby, and I can only work for a short time and then I take a maternity leave. It's a long story, but they said, well, since we can't give you any patients because we don't want them to start with you because they'd have to stop with you, we're going to send you out to the community to give talks. I had never done anything like this before. And I was like, well, wait. And they said, no, bye-bye. And off, they literally threw me out into the community. I went to schools. I had to give talks to parents on,
Mm.
communicating with your kids and parenting. And I gave mother-daughter talks and all these crazy talks. And honestly, trial by fire, I figured it out. It was a little bit of a rough go there, but I started to figure out what people wanted and started to get comfortable with speaking publicly. And that was that. After that, I got hired when I was finishing my doctorate. I got hired by another psychologist to go to do similar talks for corporations. And that really started the corporate training, the corporate speaking thing. So it all just evolved to what it is today.
So you were speaking publicly, whether voluntarily or involuntarily, when you were a psychologist full time, and then when you became a coach, you just sort of kept the ball going, and you were just like, "Well, I'm gonna leverage what I can."
This is a skill I have. It's what I love to do it. I love training and talking to people and teaching. So yeah, I just carried on with that. And then I got my iPEC degree in 2011 and 2016-ish. I auditioned for the lead training position, and after like really intense interviews and such, I got it and became a lead trainer in 2017.
Yeah, yeah. How was that? Was it a very intense process?
Yes, it was crazy intense. Yeah, we traveled all over the country with all the other lead trainers, getting a lot of feedback. We would get, it was really hard. It's really, really intense. Feedback in the moment, feedback later, go back and do it again. It was, they want their trainers to be really, really good and confident in the material and confident to be with people. So it was an intense, very intense growth period.
Mm. Yeah, that's good to know. And how long did the period of auditioning last?
It was about 6 months. Yeah. And then we traveled throughout that time because there were no virtual trainings at the time. Now obviously it's different. We traveled all over the country to be with the different lead trainers. And
Mm.
then we were on our own after the 6 months.
Man, well, thank you for going through that 6 months to become sort of like forged by fire. But
It was worth it. It was definitely worth it.
now you're changing the lives of so many people.
I love it. I'm lucky to do it.
Oh, yeah. And we're lucky to have you. Brings us to our last question. What advice do you have for millennials who are miserable in their jobs, but the thought of looking elsewhere scares the living hell out of them?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, my advice would be to ask yourself, what really are you afraid of? Is it finances, which would be understandable? What can you do to get those finances in order to give you a little bit of a bridge to take a leap to something that you maybe are more interested in? Are you afraid because you think, you're not good enough, you can't get something else? Is there something missing from your resume, or is it a story you're telling yourself to really figure that out? The other thing I would say is find happiness now in your corporate job, in your life, because looking for something from a place of misery is going to lead to probably more misery.
Yeah. Well, when you say
Right.
that, it sounds so logical.
Well, it is hard when you're in the middle of it. I get that. I was sitting at a bank, literally looking at the clock, thinking, I can't take it. Get me out of here. But then I kind of found a little balance in that, and I learned about them. There were some other interesting aspects to the bank. So then I was in a much better space when I started to look for something else, and I think I showed up better or happier or more content when I started to look for other things. I have kids who are Gen Z. I always say the idea that your job is going to be the everything of your life That's a lot of pressure, especially at the beginning of your career. Like, we all kind of have to kiss a few frogs at the beginning of our career, right? To get to the prince, princess, king, queen version of our career.
Yeah. Well, luckily for you, I think you kissed one frog.
Oh no, I kissed a few. Trust me, I kissed a few.
So for people that want to find out more about you, want to connect with you, and just see what coaching's about and what you can offer them, where can they find you?
My website, Lisa Kaplin, Kaplin.com, is the best place to find me, or LinkedIn, social media.
Okay. Instagram
Oh,
too?
Instagram as well. Yep.
Okay. Everywhere. Twitter.
Find me. Just spell my name right, Kaplin, and then you'll find me. If you do AN, you will not find me. In fact, I think there's like a brain surgeon, Lisa Kaplin, with a different spelling.
Something about the Kaplins, man. They just go all out and they
I'll
just
tell you, you gotta have a big career if you're gonna have this name.
all right, well, I'll also put that in the show notes for anyone who wants to reach out to Lisa, find out more about her, or just keep up to date with her weekly blogs. It'll all be in the show notes. Once again, Lisa, thank you so much. You've changed my life through coaching me and helping me with my own business. And every time I talk to you, it's like you're like an energizer bunny. You really are. I learn so much from you every time. Thank you so much, Lisa.
Thank you. It's a pleasure.